Rick Moranis is in the castle attic, shrinking his children. Is he another deadbeat dad like Mr. McCready and Eddie Murphy? Stay tuned to find out on the Deadbeat Dad podcast. Anyway, let's get out of the castle. Let's go down into the dungeon. Let's go beneath the castle. Hi, I'm Michael.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Damien.
And no, this is not the Deadbeat Dad podcast. It kind of is, though. This podcast is all about Disney. And each week we look at a different decade and choose a movie from that decade. This week we are looking at a movie from the 1980s. We are looking at a movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And Damien, what is the plot synopsis?
Yes. When kids sneak into inventor Wayne Szalinski's upstairs lab to retrieve an errant baseball, his experimental shrink ray miniaturises them. When Szalinski returns home, he destroys the device, which he thinks has failed, and dumps it in the trash, throwing out the kids along with it. The four children, now a quarter-inch tall, must survive the journey back to the house through a yard where sprinklers bring treacherous storms, and garden-variety ants stampede like elephants.
Sounds pretty good.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
So, Rob, what is your history with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
I remember watching this movie as a kid, and I loved it as a kid, and I still love it as an adult. That's my history.
Cool. Damien?
Yeah, I also watched this growing up, it and its other ones. I never really, I watched them when they were on TV and stuff. This is the first time I've kind of actually intentionally gone out my way to watch it, though. But yeah, I still enjoy it as much as I did as a kid. I think it's still a good movie.
Yeah, I grew up with this as well as a kid. I was probably the perfect age for it when it came out. And this movie I watched a lot in the late 80s, early 90s. I love this movie. It's so good, and it was fun to rewatch it for this podcast. Yeah, that's about it. But I guess we'll find out what the history of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is. It's time for a history lesson with Rob.
Believe it or not, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids wasn't the original name for the movie. The original name for the movie was Teeny Weenies. That's what it was originally called. It was called Teeny Weenies. It seemed to appeal more to a child demographic. So that's the reason why they changed it. But then they changed it to Grounded to appeal to a more mature audience. But that name was rejected. Was later rejected in favor of The Big Backyard because the majority of the movie takes place in their backyard. But yet again, as we know, the movie changed again. It was called, they changed the line to Honey, I Shrunk, sorry?
No one said anything.
Oh, I thought you said something, Damien. I saw your mouth move.
I know, that's just my mouth being a mouth.
Oh, okay.
That's my mouth being a mouth. Sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't.
I don't control it. Should know this by now.
So the reason why they chose Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is just because they thought that that name would actually go over, will like basically appeal to children and adults, which I think it did. This movie, it was heavily influenced by 1950s fare, so it was influenced by that era, such as The Incredible Shrinking Man. Have you guys ever heard of that movie? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
The name strikes a tune. I think I've heard of it.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, an older movie, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, 1950.
Yeah.
Oh, like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those movies you hear of, but you never have seen.
Yeah, true. Okay, so the script was actually written with Chevy Chase in mind because of his popularity in National Lampoon's Vacation, but because he was filming the sequel National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, he was too busy to portray Wayne, which I think he would have been really, really, really good as Wayne.
I mean, I love Rick Moranis, and he's perfect for the role. But I could see Chevy Chase doing it as well.
Yeah, Chevy Chase is just awesome.
It is sort of in Chevy's like wheelhouse of like humor as well.
Yeah.
If he plays it like the Griswold, plays it like that kind of dad,
Yeah,
it would be pretty funny.
yeah, that's all I'm picturing is him being like Griswold and just being Wayne.
I'm now imagining a scientist Griswold, and that thought is scary.
He would have just blown up the kids.
He would have shrunk the entire house and everything in the process, probably.
Well, wasn't that like a parody movie? Honey, I Blew Up the Kids?
No,
Or was that an actual sequel?
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid is the sequel.
yeah,
But it doesn't mean blow up into pieces. It means
they made big.
Big.
I
Why
think they were
is he-
playing on the idea of him blowing stuff up in the first one.
I guess Rob's never seen the sequel.
I don't think I've ever seen a sequel because I've seen Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. I don't think I've seen Honey, I Blew Up the Kids.
Oh, let's not bring up Honey, We Shrunk. Let's just keep this positive.
Remember the Disney rule: we don't talk about the sequels.
Okay, so special effects were heavily used for the film, such as the electronically controlled ants and bees. For them,
Auntie.
Oh yeah, Anthony or Auntie. What's his name?
Auntie.
They just call him Auntie.
Auntie's Marvel, Rob.
I'm calling him Anthony.
Auntie is.
We can't cross into that multiverse, Rob. That's not allowed.
So for the most part, the production trend they tried to use practical effects that will work in camera. For the scene where Wayne lands in the Thompson's pool, Moranis, he actually jumped off a flying board in the form of a teeter-totter on a swing set. A stuntman pushed the board, sending him flying through the air and landing on a mat.
Wait, but that happens like in the background. You didn't even need to do that.
Yeah, but they wanted to use the practical effect.
Commitment, man.
It could have been a stunt double.
Yeah.
That is commitment.
Yes, it's true. Scale models were used for the B scene with miniature Russ Jr. and Nick plastic figures attached. Forced perspective was used in the giant cookie scene to make it seem bigger. So the child actors were strapped in for the scene with the broom. The bristles were actually pieces of foam that were carved and tied to a rig system.
Cool.
And so a three-dimensional film called Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, complete with physical effects such as wind and water, was created as an attraction at Epcot, Disneyland, Tokyo Disney, and Disneyland Paris, with all four parks having the attraction by 1998. Unfortunately, however, the ride, the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was removed from all four parks in 2010. No idea why.
No!
Maybe they'll bring it back for the new movie.
Possibly.
Possibly.
So this is a fun fact. So on February 21st, 2018, it was announced that live-action remakes of several films are in development as exclusive content for Disney Plus, with one of them being Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was later confirmed that a legacy sequel film titled Shrunk is in development to be released theatrically, with a plot that centers around Nick Szalinski as an adult scientist. Michael, do you know who will star as Nick in the film?
It's Josh Gad, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
No! Why?
Yeah,
Why would you do this to me? Disney.
You're not a fan of Josh Gad, Michael?
I mean, you want to call me a huge fan? No. Bit of kind of a dislike.
But Michael, to put your mind a little bit at ease, Rick Moranis, he's actually coming out of his long semi-retirement to reprise his role as Wayne Szalinski. But no word on the size of his role, and that Joe Johnson, he's actually coming back to direct the film.
But it's like a minute total runtime.
I have mixed feelings about this.
Yeah. And that's the past, present, and future of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I also want to mention there is actually a game on Xbox Game Pass that's inspired by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where you play a character who was shrunk and has to survive through a backyard. Cool. And the game is called Grounded. And I didn't know why until you mentioned that this was the original name for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. One of the options was Grounded.
Huh.
All right, well, that is the history out of the way. Let's get into tonight's movie. Once upon a time, there was a movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And this movie starts with a fun sort of upbeat theme song. And, you know, not as good as Super Dad, obviously.
I was waiting for you to mention that movie.
I mean, I didn't feel like I wanted to kill myself in the first 2 minutes of this movie. But this is a good opener, I think. It's got little cartoon characters. It's a fun. It's about to have fun.
It's interesting and like it captivates you, and like you kind of enjoy watching it, so you don't like feel like it's dragged on for like the 3 minutes or whatever it is that opening credits were back then.
Yeah. Then we move into the actual movie, the live action part of the movie, and Rick Moranis, Wayne, is up in the attic, and he's working on his invention. It's this big, how would you describe this big laser gun thing?
Your classic cliche villainous death ray.
It's death ray.
110%, Damien. Exactly.
It's exactly what you imagine whenever they talk about it in anything.
Is Wayne an evil?
It looks like Dr. Draken. It looks like one of Dr. Draken's rays from Kim Possible.
Yeah, it does look like something he would build.
Well, it is kind of like a death ray because all it does is actually blow things up. As we see him blow an apple up. This could have been a very different movie.
It would have been Honey, I Murdered Our Kids.
Honey, I'm going away for 40 years.
He cleans up the mess and he's like, I shrunk them, honey. I shrunk them. They're little. I swear.
Honey,
I didn't murder the kids.
I'm being locked up in an insane asylum for 40 years.
So they have they sort of got gadgets all over the house. He's a gadget man. The polar opposite to his house next door is the neighbors, and they're very. How would you describe the father? Did you know
father? He's a very stereotypical father from that era. Like his son has to do sports. His son has to do all this sort of stuff. His son needs to be a man. He's one of those ones, like very old-fashioned type of father. That's what I'll describe him as.
Yeah, and they're planning on going on a fishing trip. Obviously, he's very into camping and the wilderness, and he's looking forward to going on this trip with his kids. So you've got Russell, the older brother. He's not into this kind of have to be a man and be on the football team and go camping. But then you got his younger brother, Ron, and he's into it. He loves the camping. So you got these polar opposites of these different families that live next to each other. Nick, who is the little kid of Wayne, that's kind of a carbon copy of him. Then you have Amy, who I might accidentally call Wendy throughout this episode. You've got Ron, who's the younger brother, who's in the camping. Got Russell, the older boy, but his father is actually Russell also. But he's big Russell, or Big Russ. And then you got May, who do we know? Where do we know her from?
Do you know, Rob? Because I know. I remember.
Yeah,
exactly
I know where she's from. I watched it with you when you said it. She's Buffy's
the
mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I think I've seen her in as well. I didn't even realize, having watched this like years ago, having not watched it with like the last even 10 years really. I never picked up on that until just then when we watched it.
Well, I was watching it, I was like, I know her.
It's the voice. As soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, I know the voice.
You picked it.
Yeah, it's that voice. I'm so used to her like whining on Buffy and the sound of her when she was like being a little naggy. I was like, that's Buffy's mom.
Would you say Rick Moranis, do you reckon he's a good father in this? Or is he a bad father?
Well, he's better than Mr. McCready. That's for sure.
Well, I got something that we can sort of gauge on where we need to put Rick Moranis, Wayne. I've made up a little thing here. It's the bad dad graph. As you can see, we've got pretty good, pretty bad, and pretty bad. And you see Mr. McCready, he's on the ladder. So,
okay, so
right next to him, he's pretty bad, I thought, but he's not pretty bad.
I would say Wayne is pretty good.
I'd say he's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Teetering towards pretty bad, just because I feel like there's a little bit of a like he's not a bad parent. He's just a bit more absent than you'd probably want from a parent.
But he learned from his mistake.
He did. He didn't try to peek through a window or anything, which is good.
All right.
People listening and people watching this, they may think that all three of us have daddy issues.
I mean, don't we?
And we do.
We do.
That's why we watch Disney movies or hate them.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that a Disney thing, having parent issues?
There we go. I popped him on there.
It's pretty big.
Pretty, yes. He's on pretty good, but he's a little bit into pretty bad, but he's mostly pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the graph. You need to watch the video to see that. I'll pop it up on our Facebook page as well. So check that out. So he's not as bad as other dads. Now we get Ron. He's in the backyard and he's hitting a baseball, and he's smashed. He like hits it real good. Hits across to next door neighbors into the attic, and it lands on the death ray machine. And the death ray machine actually works properly, and it shrinks 2 lounges.
Took a baseball to turn the death ray machine into a shrink ray.
That's all he needed was the baseball.
It's the age-old adage of just hit with a hammer. It fixes everything.
Yes. And so Russell sees Ron do this, so he takes Ron next door to tell him that he broke the upstairs window. And then you get April and Nick who open the door, and they're talking, and then they're neighbors, but clearly for up until this point they have never really interacted.
April? Who's April?
Oh, sorry, Wendy.
Who's Wendy?
Took me a while. I was like, wait, who's he talking about?
No, her name is April.
I thought it was May.
No,
Was it Amy?
Amy.
What did I
You-
say? Oh
you-
no, it's Amy.
You said before, you
Amy or
said
April?
her name is Amy, but I'm probably going to call her Wendy.
But he called her April.
And then he corrected himself to Wendy, which was also wrong.
No, because I'm
April O'Neil?
because her real name is April O'Neil.
Yeah.
Wait. Her real name is April
I
O'Neil.
looked this up and Mike was like, wait, as in TMNT?
Yeah,
April O'Neil?
No, so this is I've totally called her Amy for this whole thing. No, I've called her April, but her name's Amy, but her real name's April. I'm just
And
gonna
not Wendy.
I'm just gonna call her Wendy.
He'll just say one of three names and we'll know who he's talking about.
I think his neighbors his neighbors are sort of like this dude's a little bit not up there in the head, I think. So they kind of avoid him.
I think he's strange because he's different.
Yeah. Because he's always doing weird stuff and working on weird things. Which doesn't get improved at any point.
Because back in those days, being different was not a good thing.
I mean, building a death ray in your attic's
Yes.
not always considered good.
It's frowned upon.
Yeah,
He changes his tune at the end, doesn't
he
he?
does. But most of the movie, he still thinks he's weird.
Yeah,
Which we'll get to.
but I mean, I don't think I disagree with him.
No.
He's like on the coat hanger, the clothesline, hanging from the clothesline outside, looking into the ground.
Not that way. Like Superman hanging.
Oh, what did I say?
He said he's hanging from the clothesline. Without context, and for those that haven't seen the actual movie, won't realize you mean he's like he's horizontal.
No, he thought he killed all the children, so he hung
No suicide.
murder suicide. I mean,
Would you like to take this back to our meeting at the back door?
meeting at the back door.
That's probably got up to before he went off on a tangent.
So his kids open up the back door and then they see him hanging?
It's just-
This is what happens when you wake us up at 9 in the morning, Rob.
Whew. Okay, whew. Back to it.
Okay. So anyway, so they're all at the back door, and Nick and Ron go upstairs to the attic. And this is as soon as they open the door, they get blasted.
He targeted them.
By the they get blasted by the ray.
They get blasted by the death ray.
With a ray gun?
Yeah, by the ray gun. But luckily, it doesn't blow them up. Shrinks them.
Or are they secretly dead? This is them in a fantasy dream.
Possibly.
The afterlife.
Purgatory. And then Russell and Amy go up to. If I say April, it's just because I've written April here. It's, Amy go up to see where they are because they've taken such a long time, and then they get hit with a shrink ray as well. And this is
Not good.
This is not good. This is not good for them at all. This is pretty bad.
Bad. Yeah.
So Wayne comes home and he's upset because he had a big presentation at work, but it didn't go very well. He bombed.
I think they thought he was crazy.
Yeah. So he goes upstairs and he looks at his shrink ray, and he just gets furious. So he just starts smashing it up. And all these little bits and pieces start flying from the machine, and the kids are running because it's big for them, obviously because they're shrinks.
Yeah.
And this is pretty cool. This is sort of, well, what do you think? I guess we're gonna look further into it, but when they're shrinking down, how do you think all these sets look?
Pretty good.
I mean, yeah, like they don't look like 100% realistic, but at the same time, they look cool. And that's the thing. Like there was effort and thought put into how they were designed and how they were set up, and it kind of works. Yeah, I love like practical effects. Like in Haunted Mansion, I am a big fan of practical effects. So the fact that they use so much for this just adds to my enjoyment.
So he basically smashes his machine,
Goes ham on it.
and you know what's good of him? He like cleans up like straight away. Like he breaks it. He's like, well, I better clean up these pieces that are on the floor. So he starts to sweep the pieces, and unfortunately, that's exactly where the kids are standing, and they get swept up. And he puts them into a garbage bag, and then he puts the garbage bag all the way at the other end of the backyard. So they basically cut the bag open, and then that's when you get the sort of the first shot of the backyard and how much distance it's going to take them to get there. And this all looks pretty cool. This is exciting. This is a cool little adventure movie.
I feel like their backyard track would have made like a cool little walking thing for like Disneyland as well.
Yeah,
like the leaves that they slide down a leaf and everything. Then like the track that they take, it would have been really cool to like do as an adult.
They did have isn't it one of the parks, Rob? They had Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sort of playground area that was all sort of like grass and stuff. I think it might be Bugs Life now.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure was a playground at Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World Resort in Florida.
Oh, at Hollywood Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It wasn't a Bugs Life that closed down. It closed down April 2nd, 2016 to make room for Galaxy's Edge.
Because I went to it. I remember when I went. When I was there in 2012, they still had it, and I was surprised. I was like, "Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Do kids even know what this is anymore?" Well, I was happy to see it, but now it's gone. So
yeah, but it got replaced with Galaxy's Edge.
So yeah, this is where all the adventure starts happening, and so they get an idea that they want to whistle for the dog Cork. What's his name?
Something.
Dog. So, and what did you say, Damien? Dogs can't hear whistles.
I don't know if dogs would hear them whistling. Like, if their dad can't hear them.
They hear.
Remember, dogs have a lot more sensitive ears to humans.
So they decide to go up high to get the dog's attention. So they start climbing up the flowers, and what happens is Nick actually falls into a flower, and then he's covered in pollen. And then he says he's allergic to pollen, but then he says he's too big. It's too big for him to breathe in. Is that possible? Does that make any sense?
Not one bit.
But then you see like tiny pieces of pollen small enough to actually fit up his nose.
Yeah. So he should be dead.
Yeah.
This should have killed him.
It should be pretty
It depends on the severity, but if it's pollen touching your skin causes you to break out, then regardless of the size of said pollen, you would break out.
Mm.
If it's you must like inhale and it must hit your lungs for it to have an effect. Maybe, but even then you're still inhaling. Because like pollen is like the visible part of pollen, but it would be a tinier like micro like where the actual structure is and stuff. So you can still probably inhale it.
Well, just by coincidence, when he falls into the flower, a swarm of bees comes, and one of them flies into the flower. This looks pretty cool. I really think this effect looked good. Yeah. So then, I guess the bee sort of picks up Nick, and then Russell jumps onto the bee's back and grabs Nick, and then they fly all over the backyard. This looks pretty cool. I think this effect.
Really cool shot, especially when you figure out you get like Rob was saying that those are actually like little miniature things stuck onto a bee, a fake bee. Like it looks pretty cool.
I didn't even notice. So this happens, and then they get separated. So you've got Nick and Russell together, and when Wendy and
Amy
Ron together. No, it's Wendy now. And so now for the adults, Wayne, he's seen a baseball bat in his backyard, and this kind of clicks. So he goes up to the attic, and then he finds the tiny couches, and then he puts two and two together, and he realizes he's drunk his kids, and he's put them into a bin, and he's possibly murdered them. So he starts searching the backyard.
Doesn't flee the country?
No, he does not yet.
Not yet, really. Not yet.
So he's basically on these stilts. And while he's on the stilts, he accidentally gets tangled up into the hose. And getting tangled up into the hose, he turns the hose on and the sprinklers. And then what happens? This is another. How many times does he want to try to murder these kids?
I know, right?
God damn, I failed the first time, but I won't this time.
I'll drown him. These giant.
I learned from the best, Mr. McCready. I need.
There's like giant balls of water that just come down, smash on the ground, and this effect looked really good, didn't it?
Yeah.
So? I thought so.
No, it did look pretty good. I'm like, I want to know how they actually did that.
It looked like if I was tiny and big blocks of water came down from a sprinkler, you go, this is probably what it looks like.
Yeah, like it's intriguing how they managed to make water so big look like a single body of water. Like, was that also fully special effected? Like, how do you do that? Was it something like a balloon or something with water that you then like pop and then it like? That's how because like I know when you do slow-mo shots of like water in balloons, when you pop it, it will hold its shape as it falls. Because they all move at the same speed. Then you get like those really cool shots. I'd love like a making of for this movie, to be honest. I think that would be awesome. Would have been awesome.
It would have, yeah, definitely. Be cool to see how they did some of these shots. So they're trying not to get hit with this water, but poor Amy does get hit by the water, and she gets hit, and she falls into a puddle of water and mud.
Hopefully,
and
just
old Russ, young Russ, I guess. He jumps in, and he saves her life. They then find a giant cookie. This cookie looked delicious, didn't it?
Nom
yeah,
cookie.
I want it. Cookie Monster wants it.
Oh, yum. So this attracted an ant as well. So then they get into a bit of a fight with this ant. But then they get the idea that they want to ride the ants back to the house. So they get a cookie crumb and the ant follows the cookie crumb.
Actually, Amy, April, Wendy
Yes, yes.
has the cookie idea. All the other three get launched by the ant.
Yeah.
So you say all three names, one of them's right.
Wendy does do it indeed. They put the crumb on like a stick, I guess, or twig, and sort of do that whole thing where they hold it in front of the ant, and
Carrot on a stick.
yeah, and Ron becomes friends with Auntie. They let Auntie go basically, but then he doesn't want to go. He follows them. He acts like a puppy dog.
Yeah.
And he wants to stay with the kids. And Russell, Big Russ, he's next door. He's worried because the kids aren't coming back, and he's smoking. And he flicks this cigarette into the backyard of Wayne, and then you see this giant cigarette. That looked cool.
Yeah. Even the fire and the burning looked awesome. It's just why things like practical work so well, because it was real fire. Like it was something actually burning.
Mm. Yeah.
There's so much like tiny details in like fire as an example that can be hard to like recreate with CGI because you've got lighting and how it all works. And that just looked so awesome.
It did. Yeah. I love this effect. It looks so good. So they decide they're going to use the ash or from the cigarette, and they're going to make a torch with some, what is it, like twigs or
some random stick,
some form of stick or something.
Some form of stick.
I think he literally picked something off the floor and just poked it into the fire and was like, ah.
Yeah, and it worked.
We make fire. Ha.
While this is all happening, Wayne tells his wife, basically, his wife's come home now, and he has to tell her what he's done. That he shrunk the kids. And this is where I have a bit of an issue. He says, I shrunk the kids. He doesn't say, honey, I shrunk the kids.
Missed opportunity.
Yes. I had a double, like I listened to it twice. I'm like, he doesn't say, honey, I shrunk the kids.
But they said that they got the name of the movie from a line in the movie. Yeah, he said, honey, I shrunk the kids. So they're lying.
They lied to us.
Disney,
Unless-
how could you do that?
They either cut or added on a single word to it, but still, that's annoying.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
what happened was they made the movie, and they were still arguing about what the name of it should be. And then they were like, "Why don't we call it I Shrunk the Kids?" Because that's what he says. But I Shrunk the Kids doesn't work.
Yeah.
Honey adds a direction for that following statement
Yeah, you need honey in front of it.
because you know it's like him talking to his wife.
Yeah. And you think because it's called Honey I Shrunk the Kids, you think he says that? But he doesn't.
The thing is too is that I think it's always remembered as well as him having said that. It's sort of like the Star Wars line that was not actually said how people think it was.
Yeah, like how they doesn't say, Luke, I am your father. He goes,
Yeah.
no, I am your father.
So it's nighttime now, obviously, because we've got the torch to see at night, and they come across a giant Lego, and they decide they're going to sleep in the giant Lego. And this is where Russell and Amy, April, Wendy make out. So this is where they get attacked by a giant scorpion. And this scorpion looked good. I thought this thing looked cool.
That's creepy.
So this,
I'm actually glad it was a scorpion, not a spider.
I
yeah.
would have loved for it to be a spider.
Mm.
That would have freaked me out so bad.
Yeah. So basically, Ron is about to get attacked by the scorpion, and then Auntie comes to help. He saves the day, and he helps the kids. But in doing so, he gets stung, by the scorpion. And the kids sort of they chased the scorpion away, and this is where we say goodbye to Auntie. And
No.
this is one scene that I've always stuck with me. As a kid, I mean, I hated this scene. I like it's devastated.
It was like the actors were genuinely sad.
Mm.
Like for children acting, especially with like an emotion, sometimes doesn't always come across as good. But that was like heartbreaking.
Yeah, and just like Auntie's done so well that you think he's real, and yeah, I just hate that scene. I hate it, and
You get a little teary-eyed now, Michael.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Yeah, but well, I guess it's a nice emotional scene, but I wish they hadn't killed him. So after all this, we got the next day, and earlier on in the movie, I hadn't mentioned, but Nick had been talking to a boy about mowing the lawn, and the boy's like, "Oh, I'll do it later," and he's like, "Okay," and so he's come by the next day to do the lawn. This scene is cool. This is awesome. When they turn this mower on and everything's just flying into the mower. I mean, this looks awesome.
I want to say something different. Like this looks awesome, but it's true.
I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it looks great. Like
it looks pretty awesome.
Yes,
that's what you could say.
The thing is, like, I hadn't watched this movie for a while now, and I was wondering if it was going to hold up. And this movie looks great. It still holds up to this day and looks amazing. That's why I keep saying this scene looks great or this looks awesome. Yep. It's because it does. And I mean, it was 89. We're talking 30 some years ago now. They run into a earthworm's hole to be safe. And
irony.
And what happens then is Wayne and Diane, they see that the lawnmower's on, and they quickly run down to tell the kid to stop it, and he's got his headphones in, you can't hear it. And then they stop the lawnmower, but over the hole. Well, they don't stop it. They stop it from moving. So then it's just over where they're at, spinning, and they're getting sucked up into the lawnmower.
Think like helicopter blade, effectively.
Yeah. And
like jet turbine, like that level of like.
Yeah. They fly up into it, and then they turn the lawnmower off just in time, and then they fly back down onto the soft grass.
So they don't fall to their death.
They do not.
Unfortunately. I mean, fortunately.
So they're pretty close to their house now, and they basically grab onto Quark. Quark.
The dog.
The dog.
Yeah, just say the dog.
The dog. And they make it into the house. Dog runs in. He jumps up on the table. Nick falls down into Wayne's bowl of cereal. The other kids are running over to Wayne, trying to stop him. And this is, I mean, this is cool. I mean, he's like spooning
terrifying
the cereal into his mouth while Nick's in there. And then he gets Nick into his spoon, and he's about to eat him. And
finally, I got you.
And then the dog bites Wayne to stop him, and dog saved today. And then Wayne sees Nick in the bowl and sees all the children. Yay!
Yay!
Yay, they're alive.
And yeah, they go back up and they test out. They can't work out why the machine's not working. So then they work out that the baseball needs to be part of it to stop things from blowing up. And so the neighbor, Big Russ, he says he's going to be the guinea pig and test it out. So he shrinks down, and then he grows again. And they're like, okay, this works. And they basically unshrink everyone, so they're all back to normal. And yeah, it's everyone's happy story. Russ and Amy, 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 April, Wendy are in a relationship. And
Amy, April, Amy.
Amy, April.
Amy, April. There's a fourth name in there now.
And yeah, everyone's that's it. They all live happily ever after.
As billionaires.
Yay!
Let's be honest, you could sell that shrink ray to the highest bidder and probably be rich for the rest of your life.
Exactly. I guess we'll find out what happens to him in part 2.
Should we pull it?
I blew up the kid.
Part 2 is 90s, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it might come up.
We could draw it. Wouldn't that be exciting? All right. So now it's time to rate this movie. How many dwarfs do we give this movie out of 7? Damien. What do you give this great movie? So much joy.
I think I'm going to give it a 6. No, I mostly because it's not a movie I tend to watch often. In fact, I haven't watched this since the last time it was on TV in Australia. So that compared to a movie like Monsters Inc., which I can watch multiple times and still would probably watch. I enjoy it when watching it with people, and I enjoy a lot about it, but it's not something I kind of just watch.
It's fair enough. I mean, it probably fell more into my childhood than yours, because when you guys were growing up, you also had Toy Story.
It was 3 years old by the point I was born.
Yeah. And Rob?
I'm gonna go with Damien on this one and give it a 6 as well. Like, it's a great movie, but it doesn't resonate with me as much as Monsters Inc. did, so I can't give it a 7 because it does not resonate. Like, there are stuff in this movie that if I watch it again, I'll forget that it happened in the movie. But Monsters Inc., I know it from beginning to end. I know every single thing that happens because that movie is just imprinted on my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Michael? What do you give it?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I love this movie, and I am going to give it a 7. Woo!
Michael gave it a 7.
7
Wow.
Hey, that sounds normal.
It worked this time.
Works.
Not right now.
There you go.
Thank you.
I had one somewhere. I think I put them all back.
Yes, I have to give this a 7 because this is a personal one for me. I love this as a kid, and I still love it. I think it's still a great movie. I think it's pretty flawless as a movie, and I love Rick Moranis, and I think I like all the kids. The effects are great. The sets, and just a fun adventure movie. It's great. What can I say? No, that's 7 from me. And I was very excited.
First 7, your second 7.
I gave it to Monsters Inc. as well. Yes. Now I'm turning into Damien.
Yes, you are.
All right, that's pretty good though. I'd say if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. It's on Disney Plus. It's a great movie for the kids and for kids at heart as well. All right. Well, now it's time to find out what movie we'll be watching next week. And we are heading into the 90s now.
The first movie.
Did you shake it?
I was shaking it.
You don't need to shake it when it's all Aladdin.
All right. No. To keep that one you got.
The first movie was released November 25th, 1992. Which movie is it?
No, it's Aladdin.
I made a mistake. It didn't come out in 1991. It came out in 1992. Aladdin! That's the first movie. Now, second movie.
Find this or what?
I mean, we'll see what the other two options are.
Oh yeah, The Lion King's next.
Oh my god.
No.
The second movie,
No.
Toy Story 2.
Absolutely not.
I'm not rigging it.
What's the third one? Toy
The
Story
third
2.
movie came out January 18, 1991. White Fang.
All right, Rob. Which movie do you vote for?
You know what movie I'm voting for? Aladdin.
Michael?
Well, I am going to vote for White Fang.
I'm
But
also
maybe-
going to vote for White Fang. I think I saw his soul leave his body.
Died inside.
You can visually see that happening.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
so here's the problem, though. I'm actually going to vote for White Fang.
no, you have to vote for White Fang.
It was Toy Story 2 was the second one.
Yeah.
I'm voting for that.
Okay, so now it's up to fate. So
No.
if we get White Fang, it's your fault, Michael.
Damien, you should have left it White Fang.
No,
But I
It's up
want
to
Toy
fate
Story
now.
2. That's the thing. I want it.
it's up to fate now. Any bet? Michael's going to say absolutely not. I cheated by looking at the screen. It's Aladdin.
Cool. All right, now it's time for How Disney Are You? All right, so what are the scores, Rob?
The scores are me and Michael equals 7. Damien is catching up. Damien is on 4 now. Can Damien get all 3 correct today to put us all at 7?
I think the bigger question is, did Michael rig it so that you can't win this today?
Oh, that's a yes. because he wants a Funko. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Question
Wait
one.
until the end of the question to chime in.
I'm leaning back so I can yell.
There's 4 options: A, B, C, D. Question 1: The sorcerer's name in Fantasia spells what backwards? A, Walt. B, Disney. C, Fantasia. D, Mickey.
Could you repeat the question?
The sorceress's name in Fantasia spells what backwards?
Robbo, I think it spells Mickey backwards.
Mickey?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
It's Fantasia, isn't it?
Is that your answer?
That's my answer.
Final answer?
Yes.
It is not Fantasia. It is Disney. It's
I can't. I actually.
His name is Yensid.
Yensid. Y-E-N, his first name, and then S-I-D.
S-I-D.
second
It
name.
is. Oh my god, it is Yensid. Oh.
So that means Rob will not be getting a Funko Pop this week. He's going to go into the finals next week. Or not.
Nor will I be getting it next week.
Question 2.
Mm-hmm.
It is again multiple choice, 4 options. What was the first animated film to earn a Best Picture nomination? Is it A, The Little Mermaid, B, Beauty and the Beast, C, Aladdin, D, The Lion King?
Wait. Best animated?
Best Picture nomination.
Robbo.
Yes, Robert.
I think it was Lion King.
Incorrect.
Damn it.
Damo. Was it Beauty and the Beast?
Is that your final answer?
It is.
Then you are correct, sir.
You're on 5. Congratulations. You're catching up, Damien.
I remember like Beauty and the Beast had like one major feature to it that the other movies don't, and it was that they actually won like the first award.
Question 3. This is a plot of a movie, but bad. So, all right. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
A witch has a lot of fun in her bed than fighting Nazis.
Damo. Bed knobs and broomsticks?
That is correct, sir. Bed knobs and broomsticks.
This is the only movie I can think of with a bed.
Congratulations, Damien. You're catching up. You're on 6.
Oh boy,
Coming up
Damien.
behind.
Imagine if Damien wins.
Gonna have to rig it for next week. I mean, I'm gonna have to be fair and just for next week.
All right. Well, that is the end of the show. You can find us on Facebook at Beneath the Castle. Go to our SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Beneath the Castle, or you can find us on Spotify. If you not only want to hear us, you want to see us as well, you can go to our YouTube page, Beneath the Castle. And remember, we have new episodes every Monday morning at 10 a.m. So make sure you listen to the episode as quickly as possible. Not that they go anywhere. They just stay there.
There forever.
Well, that's the end of the show. Thanks for listening or watching. And remember, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. Goodbye.
Peace out.
Bye.
Happy goodbye.